To get started, you're going to want to visit our GitLab Demo Portal by going to gitlabdemo.com. If you haven't been here before, feel free to use the team member registration to create your account. If you have, please enter your email address and password to get started. On the GitLab Demo Portal dashboard, you're going to see the existing sandbox environment that we have available. If you look in the top navigation, you're also going to see the catalog and the new demo data designer. Let's go ahead and click on the designer. The first thing you're going to see is that this is a work in progress. This is our alpha release, so there might be some things that are a little bit off or maybe not completely baked as much as we want them to be, but it's perfectly functional and you should be able to use it just fine. So there's three elements that we see here. The first is the environment. The environment simply lets us know where your GitLab instance is, or if you want to connect to gitlab.com, or if you're using the demo portal, the URL of the demo cloud instance. The other thing that we have to ask is what your API key is. And the way that you do this is by creating a personal access token for your user account on the respective GitLab instance or up in our SaaS environment. So let's go ahead and do that now. If we click on View Environments, you're going to see that we haven't added one yet. So go ahead and click on Add Environment. Now, the environment name is whatever you want to refer to it as. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to call this Demo Cloud Jeff. Just in case I happen to use my admin account, you could just call it Demo Cloud if you wanted to. And then you're going to want to put whatever the base URL is. Now, I don't really know what the base URL is right now. Let's see if we can figure that out. One of the things you'll notice is that this is part of a modal window. To get out of this, when you click out, it's going to disappear. However, if you come back to it, you stay on the same page, it should keep all the form fields filled in. So let's click out of this for a second, and I'm going to pull up that dashboard. I'm just going to do it in a new tab. So if I go to New Tab, we're going to see here's the URL of the GitLab Omnibus instance that we use as the demo cloud. I'll right-click, copy link address. If I go back here and go to Add Environment, here's the base URL. I'll simply paste it in. Great, that's what we want. One thing you'll note here is that we do not want to end with a slash, so we'll simply remove that. If you try to save it with a slash, it will throw an error message letting you know we don't want that in there. On the personal access token, these are the instructions that are part of the GitLab documentation. So we can see what do we need to do to create an access token. Here's the steps. We're going to log into GitLab. We're going to go up into our account, go to Settings, User Settings, select the access tokens, go ahead and create it. And to make it work within the demo designer, you're just going to want the API scope enabled. So let's go ahead and do that now. So I look at here. Here's the Omnibus instance for the demo cloud. Right-click, New Tab, bring this up here. These are going to be the credentials that you have when you first created your account. We also use that to create your account on the demo cloud instance. So whatever GitLab handle that you chose or email address, both will work. We'll just go ahead and paste that in there. And then that same password, we'll go ahead and enter it in here. I'm just going to remember myself to make life a little bit easier in the future. After you've signed in, you're going to see a whole bunch of projects or the groups that you deal with on a regular basis. When I navigate in here, you may or may not see your name depending on what level of access that you have. In general, I have a little bit more access because of what I've been dealing with, but if I just search for my name, I'll find my group. You notice that was a little bit painstaking. There's also a bookmark in here. So if we go back to here and you click on the My Group button, that's actually going to take you right to where you want to be. So a little bit of a shortcut without having to navigate to it. Inside of your group, you can see the projects that you've already created. We're going to come back to this in a minute. What we want to look at first is over here in the profile or the settings. I think settings is where we want to go if we recall. And on the left-hand side, you see access tokens. When creating your personal access token, you just want to give it a friendly name. I'm going to say GitLab Demo Designer. Sounds like a good enough name for this. You can also set an expiration date if you'd like. You don't need to. I know that my key is going to be revealed in this video. I'm going to revoke that key right after the video is completed, so you don't need to worry about the vulnerability of the key being exposed, but it'll give you the full sense of how to add things in here. So we're going to leave the expiration alone. On the scopes, make sure you choose API. We don't need any of the others for what we're doing today. Go ahead and click Create Personal Access Token. You notice the token gets added here. You're probably going to want to add this to your 1Password vault or other password manager. It's only going to appear this one time. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that, add it to my password manager, and then I'm going to take this personal access token and go ahead and add it on to the GitLab Demo Cloud or wherever Omnibus or GitLab.com instance that you're working off of. Now that we've added our key, we can go ahead and click on Save Environment. This is going to save the environment to the database. And the first thing that you're going to see is we've done an API call to the GitLab instance with your token to see what you can access. Specifically, we're looking at your namespaces. So these are the groups in which you can store new projects in, or the existing projects that you have. I'm not going to scroll down and muddy up the screen because I had a lot of tests that I was working off of, but you get the kind of the idea, right? So what we're going to want to do is go to My Playbooks. Now when you're looking at creating a playbook, the first thing you're going to want to do is give it a name. This is a friendly name that you recognize it as. None of this is going to appear to a user or in your GitLab instance. However, the playbook description is going to be used as the project description when you're creating a new project. So just keep that in mind. For the example today, I'm going to say that this is going to be Playbook Demo. You could call this whatever you want, but we'll say Playbook Demo with issue boards. This is my sample project description. Excellent. Once we click Save Playbook, you're going to see that the left side is going to populate with several menu items. We're going to ignore runs for right now. What we want to have a look at, though, is labels and milestones. These are the elements that you need in order to create issues, because when you create an issue, you're going to want to choose an existing label or milestone. So let's go ahead and click on Labels. Right now, we don't have any labels here. We can go ahead and add some. We're going to add the Generate Labels ability in the near future. So for right now, let's do a typical thing where we create a backlog column. We have a up next. We're going to do a in progress, and then we're going to do a done. So we're going to create 4 columns today. So the first one we're going to create is called backlog. If you want to give it a color, feel free. I'm not going to worry about it for the sake of this demo. These are issues in the backlog. Excellent. Go ahead and save that. And you notice that backlog label is now listed here. This is not going to have the exact styling that you're going to see in your GitLab instance. However, it is going to give you a very good representation of what you're going to see once this runs. Next label is going to be up next. This could also be to do. If you prefer to call it that, that's fine. Awesome. Create another label. We're going to say doing or in progress. And finally, we'll add one called done. Awesome. Now we've got our 4 labels that we want. We can add additional labels in here as well. And let's go ahead and do that because I'll show you a couple tags that you can do. So we're going to say that this is going to relate to engineering bug. I'm not going to worry about a description. And then let's add one that has another one that's going to relate to new feature. And just for distinguishing this, I'm going to give this a new color. Let's make this a little bit light gray. You notice how the color represents what you're going to see, right? Fantastic. So we have these different labels now. Let's go ahead and create some milestones. When you get to the point of adding milestones, we have a new feature called relative dates. The idea is to work around the challenge of when you try to import a project that you exported a long time ago, is those dates would be stale. They might be 3 months old. So it doesn't really show the relevance of milestones and issue tracking in progress in the current moment when you're looking at dates in the past and dates in the future. So what we've done is come up with the idea of using January 1st, 2020 as the today value whenever you're running an import. So when you're setting a start date or a due date, you want to use that as the relative basis of it. So let's have the example here that we run this playbook today on April 28th. So if we have a milestone that starts on December 10th in the demo designer, this is going to be 22 days before January 1st. So what that means is that the start date of this milestone, when you actually run your project, if we run it today, which we're going to, is going to shift back 22 days, and that'll show up as April 6th. So if you look at the table that we see here, you'll notice that these dates are showing what you can do with dates in the past and dates in the future, so you can determine if your issues are showing up as completed items in the past, as items that are currently in progress, or items that are planned for the future, regardless of when you import this. Because as you're creating it using the relative dates and not worrying so much about, oh, I'm going to import this, or is this data going to be old? Is it going to show relevance? So we worked around and we've solved that challenge. So you can use some of the examples in this table as a basis to start creating it. What we're going to do is I'm just going to create 3 milestones. I'm going to use these dates as an example so you can see this after we've imported it. So we're going to create one with October 10th, 2019 and November 30th. That's the due date. So when I click Create Milestone, let's give this the milestone title. I'm going to say Previous Sprint, or we'll call this version 1, version 2, and version 3. Now, that makes a little good sense. So version 1.0, fantastic. Give it a description if you want. And on the start date, this is where that relative date comes in. So 2019, 10/01, and the due date of 2019, 11/30. And you can put whatever dates that you want in here. You can go as far back or as far in the future as you want. The key to remember is that 2019 will be a date in the past, 2020 or 2021 are going to be a date in the future based on this, right? So we'll go ahead and click on Save Milestone. That first milestone's been added, and you'll see that calculation down here. That matches the documentation. If we were to add in our own custom dates, it's going to show whatever value based on what you've entered. So let's create the next one, and we're going to say version 2.0. This is our current sprint, if you will, for what we're doing. And I'm going to go away from the start date just because I'm looking at this window. It's blocked my date. I forgot what it was. That's okay. This gives us a good example to see what's going on. So I'm going to say that this thing started, let's see, if today's January 1st, I'm going to say it started a week ago. So we're going to go back and say, around Christmas? No, 23rd. We'll make that. That's a good number because we don't want to start anything on Christmas. So if we go 2020 into the future, we're going to say that this should end, let's say, 3 months from now. So I'm going to say 3/31. Okay, that makes good sense. Go ahead and hit Save Milestone. So you notice that it calculated back 1 week and 2 days, and it calculated forward 2 months and 4 weeks. If you're looking at this and you're like, why is that not 3 months? Because some months actually calculate as 5 weeks on the computer side of things. So that's why it does that on relative dating. When I go and add the future one for version 3.0, this is a future release. We'll go ahead and add this in, and we'll say this is going to start. We just created our thing for 3/31, so we're going to create a new one that starts on 4/01, and this is going to end at the end of June relative to this. This will obviously add dates in when we work on this, right? So save the milestone. Now we've got something that starts in 3 months and something that ends 5 to 6 months away. So that's the way we do relative dating, and at any given time, I can go ahead and adjust this. So if I had this date that I actually wanted to use, I could go in, edit it, update it. Remember that anything you edit or update will only affect future playbook runs. It's not going to affect anything you've already run against a current or a new project. All right, we have 3 milestones, version 1, version 2, and version 3. Let's create some issues. So we navigate to the issues. This is where we can click on the Create Issue button, and you're going to see the milestones and labels that you've already created. That's why we have to add them first. So we're just going to create a couple sample issues here, and we're going to say the first thing is project scoping. The description here is where you normally see the markdown field. For the alpha release, this is simply a text field. It's not going to render the right markdown that you want to see. So I'm going to keep this pretty simple with just a sentence description. This issue is tracking all of our scoping activities, and leave it at that for right now. The created at is the relative date. You are required to put a created at date in. You are not required to put a due date in. So for created at, I'm going to say that we created this since we used October 1st as the first 1.0 milestone, and we used 11/30 as the backup. What we're going to do is we're going to say we created this on 12/01, right, for what we're doing right now. And you'll understand why in just a second when I do this. So the due date, I'm going to leave this alone for right now. I'll add it on the next issue. I'm not going to worry about it for right now because we don't really know the due date for this project scoping. The weight, if you'd like, you can put any of the integer values that are allowed for that. We're going to add the user assignment values in the next release, so don't worry about that for right now. Same goes for the group level epics. So the milestones, you'll see the milestones that we have here. They are going to be sorted by the due date in reverse chronological order for you. So we're going to say this is for version 2.0, and we're going to say that this is currently a doing label, as well as we're going to say new feature, and that looks like it's about right. You are free to use scoped labels if you'd like. However, we've not fully tested it, so you may run into mixed results, but feel free to give it a try. Now that you've got your first issue, We can go ahead and add additional issues if we choose. Let's go ahead and do a version 2.0 proof of concept. That sounds like a good idea. Add this in. Awesome. You can add any description you like. I'm not going to worry about it. We've already been through that. You can go ahead and edit descriptions after they're added if you'd like. So go ahead and create this. What date do you think we should put in? Well, proof of concept, today's January 1st. Let's say we're going to start it next week. So we're going to say 2020-01-08. That sounds like a good time. We're going to say this proof of concept is going to take about 2 weeks. So we'll do 01-24. Best guess, right? Wait a 4. What milestone do we want to put it to? Version 2.0 sounds right. And we're going to say that this is going to be up next. You notice the date here of 1/8, that's going to be a week away. Up next seems like the right place to put it. Go ahead and save that issue. Awesome. We've now added a second issue. Feel free to add additional issues if you'd like, but we're going to move on for the sake of this demo. So let's have a look at issue boards. Now that you've created your issue board, let's add a couple lists to it. So when you go to list, you can choose between the project label, milestone, or assigned to user. The milestone and the assigned to user will be coming shortly. We have a couple limitations with the SDK we're still adding. On the project label, go ahead and choose any of the different labels that you've added. Since we're trying to create a Kanban board, let's add the backlog, doing, done, and up next. We're purposely going to add them out of order so I can show you how to rearrange them. So go ahead and save that list. When you go to backlog, doing, and we'll add done. Now what we can end up doing is we can move from left to right. So let's take backlog over to the left. Up next is right, doing's there, and done's there. Perfect. We're all good, ready to go. So what'll end up happening is when we create we actually run the playbook, it'll take the issues that we've created and the labels that we've attached to those issues and add them to the appropriate columns, the same way it works on the GitLab instance itself. So now that we have all those pieces in, let's go back and review, and then we'll go ahead and run this playbook and see what it looks like. So issues, we've got 2 issues, doing, and up next. This should show up on the first board that we created in 2 different columns. That's what we're looking for. On the milestones, we're going to see those 3 milestones. All the ones that we're working off of are in version 2.0, so that's where we should be looking to see that. Then we have these labels. So the expectation that we have when we run this is that all of these records will be created using the API to any GitLab instance that you've configured, and then we'll be able to see the issue board with those sample issues. Now, since this video is just a sample, you're not going to see a ton of depth in the data. As we evolve, or as you take the ownership of creating a much richer data set, you can do quite a bit more with it. So let's go ahead and click on Playbook Runs. You'll notice you have not run a playbook. When we go to Run, what you're going to see is which playbook would you like to run. As you create more playbooks, this list is going to get a little bit longer. On the environment, again, this list will be longer if you add in GitLab.com or other omnibus instances that you might have. For right now, this is the 2 that we've created. So go ahead and click on Next Step. And this is going to create a draft of this playbook run. The next step is saying, where do we want to put this? You can put this in an existing project. Keep in mind that if you try to run it against an existing project, if there's something with the same name, the error validation in the alpha release is probably going to spit an error that may not be as friendly as you'd like. So it's not going to break your environment or your project. However, it will cancel the run and it will not go any further. What I really suggest is doing a new project whenever you want to run a playbook. And what you can do is choose the namespace that you would like to put it in. So for example, I'm going to put it in the default group that I have that we looked at in just a moment ago. And when I look at the GitLab project name, I can call this whatever I like. So for the sake of this, I'm going to say that this is going to be Video Demo Issue Board Management. And what it's going to end up doing is creating this project with this name and the slug in the appropriate namespace. Fantastic. Now when we click Run Playbook, this is where that spinning wheel is going to take a minute just to run everything. So just to clean things up, what I'm going to do is let's have a look back at the demo cloud, bring up the dashboard. I haven't run the playbook yet, but I want to show you where this lives at. And I'm going to do that My Group thing again, just to make it a little bit easier to get there. So we're expecting a new project to be created here. So I wanted this kind of to be able to see what's going on before we get started. So over here, we'll go ahead and run this playbook. And this is where the magic happens. You notice in the top left corner of the spinning wheel, it took a couple seconds there. And now what's happened is you see the playbook runs. We see a link that has the full namespace of this project. This is a link as well. I can click this, it'll take it over. There's no code in this repository, but you see over in the left sidebar, there are issues. So what we want to look at is finding all the records that we have in this playbook. So we're looking for our labels, our issues, our milestones, and our issue boards. So in the issues here, let's go to the list. We can see these are those 2 issues that we created. Pull up the proof of concept, and you can see there's the title, there's the description, and the things that were affected. So here's the version release that was added, here is the label that we added, and here's that weight of 4 that we set, and the due date that you notice got populated as well. So that's what the issues look like. Great, that all looks good. Let's have a look at project scoping. Same sort of thing here. It's got multiple labels, fantastic. Now let's go ahead and look and see if we can see if our labels are there. Great, there's all the labels. That was easy. So look at milestones. And there's the 3 milestones that we created. Notice that the dates here are all relative. So based on running this today on April 28th, we can see that version 2.0 is in the midst of happening. This one happened back in January to March. Remember, even though the dates were set back starting in October 1st of 2019, everything is relative to the date of today, right? So 3 months before April 28th is January 27th in the relative date scheme, as well as here's the upcoming version 3.0. Great, that all looks fantastic. Let's have a look at the board. So up in the left-hand corner, remember if you create multiple boards, you're going to have to choose them from the drop-down list. Sprint board's the one that we created, and you notice that we have these different columns of all the things that we created. So this is the display order that we chose when doing it in the designer, and it's the columns that have been created based on those labels. So we have backlog up next, doing and done, and there's those 2 issues that we had created. So there we have it. That's the alpha release of how we can use the demo designer to go ahead and run this playbook. And if you're trying to create a playbook and then use it with multiple customers during a demo, or you just want different sandbox environments, you can run it again with a different name. So we'll run this one more time just so you can see that. Here's the runbook, here's the playbook, here's the environment, next step, fantastic, new project. I'm going to put it in the same namespace. I'm just going to call it something different. I'm going to say this is my test sandbox for April 28th. And there we have it. And let's hit run playbook. Again, wait 2, 3, 5, 10 seconds depending on the environment and the API connection speed. And you'll see the second one's been created. So there's this new project. There's those same things. If I make any modifications to that playbook, you can then run it again against a new project, not against the same project, and you'll see those additional changes that you've made. And now when I go and look at the group here, you'll see those 2 projects now appear in the group. So there you have it. That's the new demo designer and the easy way to go ahead and create all the templates that you want with dynamic dates and then populate it in. As we work toward the beta and future iterations, we're going to be adding a lot more functionality. If you're curious what that looks like, simply go to docs.gitlab.com, navigate to the API. So if we go to the GitLab over here, go to our API, have a look at the resources, and all the resources that you see listed here are all the possibilities of what we may be adding. We're not going to be able to add everything just because of the inherent nature of how some of the resources work, but it gives you a full idea, especially around groups, when you're looking at, can I add epics, can I add multiple projects and tie the issues in these projects to group level epics and milestones? The answer is eventually yes. So that's what we're working towards, but this gives you a starting point to see how we're going to get there. So with that, thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. And to get started, go ahead and visit gitlabdemo.com and have fun out there. If you have any questions, feel free to find us in Slack, demo-systems. Thanks.